everybody, welcome. Today I'm sitting here with Jason Vukovic, the Alaskan Avenger, and it is going to be the very first time that he has ever told his story in his words himself, because he just got out of prison after doing 10 years for using the registry of people who do bad stuff to hunt them down, break into their houses, and serve them up some justice. And even though this man ended up giving up a huge chunk of his life to get justice for what was done to other kids, nobody ever did that for him. We're going to get all the way into his story. There are going to be some things that are going to be triggering. There are going to be some things that are gut-wrenching and heartbreaking, but I guarantee you, you do not want to miss this. So, let's go! Jason, welcome, man. So anybody who knows anything about your story knows that this whole thing is rooted in your childhood. Will you talk about that with us?
Yeah, my childhood, for sure. So I was born and raised in Alaska, and I was born in 1975. And I had a natural father who disappeared. I was actually born into a missionary family. These were church-going people. So I was in Indonesia, New Zealand, Singapore, Thailand, from the time I was a very, very young child. I was born into a very interesting Christian sort of family at the time. Here in Alaska, they attended a church called Abbott Loop Christian Center, and it's very important for me to name drop that place, and later on you'll realize why. They brought me into this church and did this very strange ritual where people are speaking in tongues. The family that I had, they were missionaries. Soon after coming back, my natural father was a youth pastor, and he took off with one of the chicks from the youth group or whatever that he was teaching. I'm not sure if she was 17, 18. I'm not quite sure the specifics on that, but I will tell you Gary Lanfear was his name, is that this person left and never looked back, and has wanted absolutely not a single thing to do with me or my brother ever for our entire lives. Matter of fact, later on when I was a little bit older and we traveled all the way to Wyoming, when I had a very young wife, I was probably in my teens, I met up with him and was so excited to finally meet my dad, and he told me, listen, there's a reason why I gave you up for adoption. It's because I do not want to raise you or have anything to do with you. Soon after he took off, my mother met some dude that was going to the same church. Again, this is Larry Lee Fulton, and it's very important for me to mention his name because that family name Fulton, I wish to burn in ashes and poison anyone who carries it, because that person was a demon in human form. Larry, and honestly, I cannot remember what age. Soon after meeting my mother, like within a year, he adopted my brother and I. We were going to a Christian church, and they had us in Christian school, and they had us in Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, Wednesday night, Thursday home fellowship, Christian school. It was just nonstop with the cult. And the thing is, I was surrounded by members of that church. And not only was I not protected or anything remotely related to that, ultimately, when this guy was convicted of second-degree abuse of a minor and so forth, it was the church that provided him the attorney to go defend him. It was the church that hauled my brother and I before the elders and told us specifically that we need to forgive him because Larry has repented and he is our father and everything else. So, no, absolutely not. And that's another one of the reasons why, using my own simple speak, I tell people, check this out. When I was a little kid, if some tattooed up badass would have kicked in the front door and beat the brakes off this piece of shit that was molesting me, I would have given a cheer, and I could have skipped all of those church services because that one act of service from someone else would have shown me that there was something greater than myself that I could believe in. And I wouldn't have had to have suffered in this manner to arrive at that belief today.
So not only did the adults in your life fail you, the church failed you, and the legal system failed you.
As a child, what I do recall is sitting in one of your Wednesday night services while you people were preaching to the 1,200 member congregation about where to beat your child where it causes the most pain and leaves the least amount of bruising, between right below the buttocks to right behind the back of the knees. And any sort of leader of any spiritual community that has that sort of advice, how to beat a child the most effectively, where you cannot be arrested or caught or whatever, that is some sick shit. This church was instructing them how to beat their kids. This church was facilitating defenses for people that were little kids. And it's disgusting.
Do you feel that in some deeper way, the childhood abuse that you endured led you to become the man that you needed back then to protect you so that you could protect other kids?
No question, 100%. The single solitary reason I ever went out and did the things I did, the seed of it, was that abuse. It was the abuse, it was the abandonment. It was, how about going to the grocery store, having bruises all up and down the backs of your legs, and it's summertime in Alaska, and you're standing next to the people at the checkout. And you're wondering to yourself, can't they see this shit and nobody's gonna say anything? How about being fortunate enough to go to soccer practice and your soccer coach is telling you, next time you need to stop standing on the sidelines and hustle your ass up and down the field if you want to be on this team. And what you don't tell them, but what's actually real, is I can't run today. I can hardly stand up because last night I got beat with a fucking 2x4 till I fell face down on the bed. And then when I fell on the floor, he kept beating me. And then when I put my hands behind my back, he kept beating those as well. That's the type of shit that plants a seed in your body and in your mind, and it blossoms later on. That's also the type of shit that destroys instantly any self-worth, any self-value. Anything that you would do in your lifetime that would cause you to choose something better for yourself is beaten out of you, because you cannot walk away from that and subconsciously accept the fact that you have any value at all, because that's what child abuse does to you. It puts you in solitude. And I promise you, I got my prison sentence a long fucking time before I ever got arrested in this life. So he worked a swing shift. He would get off work at like midnight, and then he would come home late at night after my mother, if I can use that term for that witch, was asleep. This dude would come in to pray for my brother and I. And this is the reason why I cannot have any sort of a purpley fluorescent light bulb around me, near me, of any type, because we had a little aquarium and it was lit with a purple light. And I cannot sleep with any sort of purple light like that, because this fucking piece of shit maggot would come in the room to pray for my brother and I. And it started out with him whispering some fucking creepy ass prayer in your ear and sliding his hand around on your chest and in your pants and feeling your dick and everything else. But imagine being a little kid sleeping at night and you know you're watching. You know this motherfucker is coming, and when you hear that hand on the knob, you have nothing but terror. And I also recall being coached by the attorney that the church hired, and sitting in the attorney room outside of the courtroom while he's telling me, like, listen, your father was just curious. He was trying to see your development, see if you had pubes yet or not. We really want you to just walk in there and say that and just tell him that you cannot remember when the judge asks you and things like that. Now, I also want you to consider the weight of that as well. Being a young kid in some type of church, okay, you're beating me with 2x4s. This dude is jacking me off at night, and now you want me to go in and lie to a judge and tell him that some other shit happened that didn't happen, and this is what you people are telling me, and I'm supposed to believe in you, because if I don't, I'm going to die and go to hell.
So there was not just the man that was doing this to you and the mother that was looking the other way while this happened. There were people, adults, while you were a child, who were working against you, being able to expose this and have this stopped. But your older brother, he went to the police, correct? Did they believe him?
Yeah.
And the church actively tried to hide this and cover it up.
Yeah, for sure. So I think him and his girl went and stole my mom's car from the parking lot outside of work, and they ran away together, and they got stuck in a snowbank, because it's Alaska. You get stuck in snowbanks. That's what happens. And eventually they found him and arrested him. And when they hauled him in to question him, that was when he divulged all of the abuse that had been taking place. And so I never saw him again. They ended up putting him in a foster home or something like that. And I'm not sure, I wasn't really present. I don't even know that cops actually came out and arrested Larry Fulton, because I certainly don't remember him. Maybe he may have spent one afternoon in jail or something, if there's some little petty bail that they impose on child. He was definitely out with a quickness.
So he got off with just a slap on the wrist, and they removed your brother from the home, but left you there, the younger child, with this monster?
Well, and to clarify, they didn't remove anybody from the home. My brother ran away from the home and told them, I am not fucking going back to that house, period, bar none, and here's why. Which, sadly for me, that was a second betrayal. My brother was my best friend. That was the dude that fucking beat the shit out of me, sent me down the stairs in a laundry basket, locked me in the car when it's 79 degrees outside. I'm telling you, had slap fights with me where he was obviously going to win every single time, but that was my older brother. That was my dude. And he abandoned me in that house with those people. And I that shattered me. But So yeah, they didn't remove him. He refused to go back, number one. Number two, even during the trial, post-conviction, they sent Larry Fulton right back to the house. And mind you, if you off your little kids 100 times and beat them with 2x4s over and over and over and over and over and over and over again in the state of Alaska, they gave him a 3-year suspended sentence because he was just curious.
And they sent him straight back home with a child.
To the same child he was just convicted of molesting. Me.
So the whole entire system failed you at this point.
Yeah, it failed me. But this system is designed specifically for these ends. When you fly over California and you look at a series of factories and you think to yourself, why did Elon Musk build those? Oh, I look at what's coming out the end. Shiny new Teslas. I get it. Done. When you look at this system, look at what it's producing. They built this with purpose. You do not accidentally build a system that pumps out convicted child rapists that are getting suspended sentences. That shit is on purpose.
And this is what you knew growing up as a child. Like, this is everything that you ever knew. This was all that you had.
I never had any sanctuary. I have not felt home until my baby sister and you guys showed up. And I'm almost half 100.
Jax and I are so incredibly grateful to be able to call you family. You are an amazing human being. And Jason, you are easy to love.
Of course.
Brother.
Absolutely. I love you too.
Bro, I just want to take a second and thank you for being so brutally honest with us. I know that this has been incredibly difficult on you to relive some of these childhood memories, and to think that this is a safe place and that we are safe people to be able to talk to, man. I love you and I appreciate that more than you know. Can we talk about what led up to the crime that actually landed you in prison?
What led up to the crime that led me to prison? I mean, if you want the real honest answer to that, the crime that led me up to prison was a very strongly attuned internal compass. I mean, I found myself in Oregon, Idaho, Washington, Montana, California, different states. And every state that I was in, I would feel compelled to go someplace at some time, and I would encounter a situation where there was a child or children that were in need of some sort of service, and typically it involved, some sort of organized group of people that were trafficking kids or just prostituting children, et cetera, et cetera. And it was quite an interesting balance in my life trying to handle, at the time, I ended up having a wife and 2 children, Milo and Macy, I love you, Anna, rest in peace, that balancing a work life and raising children and stuff like that, and then feeling these calls to go and do certain things. Like, when you come home with all your hair scalped off and stabbed, try to explain that to the mother of your kids. You know what I mean? I would tell her, just don't ask, just get the super glue and the hydrogen peroxide, please. I'm running into people all over the community, youngsters, and they're talking about this one's fucking little kids, that one's pimping out these girls, these ones are having them transport their dope, they're getting high with them, and they're 14 and they're 13 and they're 15. I was walking into houses in this community of people, families that I care a great deal about, and I'm watching kids pull out needles and they're shooting dope, and I'm thinking to myself, like, where are all the parents? Where is your dad? Nobody taught you that we don't use needles around here. It's not what we do. And literally just the whole culture is so sick and so poisonous and so unmanaged, completely wild and unmanaged and just disgusting, that it started triggering that old spirit in me. And plus, I'm back in my home state, and so that ocean of old, I know, check it out. This state, this is where the opposition is at. And there's nothing I like better than taking out the trash. And I've done it a number of times, and I'm willing to do it again.
So you were getting tips from people about people that were actively hurting kids, but you were also going and using the registry to double check and reaffirm that these were actual registered sex offenders, right?
That was sort of the method. I would hear it from the community. I would go vet the person on the sexual offender registry. Oftentimes, a lot of the times, yeah, it's a hit. 14 counts of on a minor. Interesting. Shit like that, man. You're a millionaire homeowner and you live on a lake right by the airport. Cool. You're also the youth music pastor for a church. Weird. Where you're also convicted of molesting a 10-month-old baby. Shit like that.
Okay, so I want to be careful with this. I only want to talk about things that you are already convicted of, because you have earned your freedom in blood and you deserve to stay out here. So let's not talk about anything that you haven't already been caught for. But isn't it true that you served over double the prison time? That all of your victims combined served for what they did to children?
When I was arrested, I got arrested for, I believe it was 27 felonies. 9 for each one of the guys they charged me with assaulting.
9 for each one?
Yeah, oh yeah. State of Alaska, they like to stack it, especially if it's me. I wrote a letter to the prosecutor and I told him, I'm excerpting here. I told him, I will plead guilty to any combination of charges you wish with the following caveat. My sentence is to equal in length what each one of these victims served in jail for their assault on a child. One of them was a child pornographer. I believe he did a couple of years in jail. One of them raped his own daughter. I believe he did 2 years, 9 months in jail. The other one, who was convicted of molesting a 10-month-old baby, I believe he did 9 months in jail. And I told him, furthermore, I will also serve the prison sentence for the monster who made me when I was a little kid, and I'll do Larry Fulton's 3-year fucking prison sentence. How about that? So it came to 6 years, 9 months, or 9 years, 6 months, one of the two. And I told him, run that. I'll plead guilty to whatever you want. Let's go. So of course, they laughed that shit out of the courtroom. And eventually I stood there and I received nearly 3 times longer in prison than all of them combined. I got a 23-year prison sentence.
You literally just named some of the most horrific crimes imaginable, and they got like 2 years, 9 months, a suspended sentence. Are you kidding me?
Well, I'll give you a better comparison. How about this? Oh, excuse me, did I go smash this fucking maggot with a hammer 3 times? Well, check this out. I got beaten with a 2x4 over 100 times. And you gave that piece of shit 0 days to serve. How about that? The person that pushed me out of their womb, she stayed with that fucking maggot until the day he died, to the exclusion of her own sons. It's bizarre. This is like a planet that I have touched down on that is populated with a species that I don't ever care to see again after this experience, because a lot of them are sick, deviant, evil, twisted fucking pieces of garbage.
And the thing that boggles my mind is these creatures that you smashed out, I can't refer to them as your victims because it literally burns my tongue when I try to put that in this context, even though I know the state of Alaska probably would say it that way. They were adults when this happened to them, and you were a literal child. Their victims were literal children.
I'm telling you right now, every single place that I went face up, no mask, no gun. I could have brought duct tape and a curling iron and a fucking broom handle if I wanted to. Might have had a hammer or two once in a while because I'm kind of a metaphoric thinker, and the hammer of justice and whatnot seemed to make sense. But I would go in there and put your hands up, bitch. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say that in such a way that's like self-aggrandizing, because from the soul, I am not a violent person. Honestly, I'm not particularly good at fighting, to be totally candid with you. However, when you're doing something like this, my process is I would invoke an energy. And I chose to do that, and I made the sacrifice to do that for these specific purposes because it was worth it. I don't care to have violence come through or out of me ever. I despise it because I suffered it as a child. However, for that purpose, it was righteous. And there is nothing more satisfying on this fucking material plane than righteous anger properly expressed, because most people are too fucking selfish and too lazy and too egotistical and self-centered to ever make that sacrifice.
And brother, I think that's part of why you and I vibe so heavily, because evil has only been able to exist in this world as strongly as it has because good men have sat by and done nothing because they didn't have the conviction or the strength in their heart to actually go out and do it. Can you walk us through what happened when you went in that first home?
Yeah, the 3 I was convicted of, yeah, for sure.
What's going through your head as you're walking up to this house?
Well, I mean, to be perfectly candid with you, what's going through my head when I'm walking up to this house is like, God damn, here we go again. I find the address. I get there. I live a surreal life. Wouldn't you know, of course. It's the middle of summertime, bro. There should be people out, kids, whatever. The whole neighborhood's dead ass quiet. It's like whatever o'clock in the afternoon. I walk right up to the address, knock on the door, no answer. Where's all the neighbors? Nobody's here. I'm like, I know he's home because my internal compass tells me he's home. I go to the front window, knock, no answer. I go to the gate, I open it, and I go around the back and I look down in the window and what do you know? The dude is sitting in a chair in his bedroom, the TV is off, and he's got his arms on the armrests as if I didn't know better, he was waiting for me. I pound on the glass and he literally looks up at me and he points at himself, me? And I told him, come on, man, go answer the door. So I walk back around to the front. He opens the door and I literally, bro, when I open the door, or when they open the door when I show up, They stepped back out of the way, and I literally walked right past him into his own home, and I told him, come on, man, come on. And he followed me into his bedroom. And I proceed to start open hand, just bitch slapping the shit out of this motherfucker, because that's what he has coming. This is the one that raped his own daughter. I proceed to bitch slap the shit out of this dude. I knock him flat on his back on the bed. He's like, doing his little thing. And then he rolls over on his stomach. I put him on the bed, start giving him a lecture about disgusting things that families do, and you've misused your authority and your power and everything else. I notice he's got a big fat wallet in his pocket. He's also got a backpack on the bed. He's getting ready to go, and it's got a digital camera in it. It's got some amount of pharmaceuticals or dope or whatever. It's got some lingerie type shit in it, whatever. And I already know he's going to Kenai to go see some more of these young little girls that are raised up here, because that's what these sick fucks do. They traffic and take pictures and fuck kids, and then they trade them amongst themselves. So I get his wallet, and I notice he's got a shit fuck ton of credit cards. And I tell him, which 4 of these credit cards do you authorize me, and how much on each one for some single moms that I know to use for shit they need for their kids. And he's like, stuttering. He says something like $200. And I told him, no, man, we want $1,000 on each one of these fucking cards. That's what you're going to authorize. You give me permission to do that? And he's like, yeah, give me permission, which is hilarious. So I take the 4 cards. I take whatever the fuck else I want out of there and put it in a box. This dude's still laying on the bed, and I tell him, don't get the fuck out of that bed until you've counted to 100 after I walk out of here. And then I walk out, and I put the shit in my car, and I drive into a neighborhood. It's actually a trailer home park. And there's a single mom, I can't remember her name now. She had 4 children. She was living with her mom. Their aunt is in the neighborhood. Like, these are really good people, but bro, they're just unmanaged, and they need love and things. And I told him, look, take these credit cards and give them to your fam. Do what you need to do. You guys go get what you need. This dude said you can charge $1,000 on these fucking things. He's probably going to change his mind in the next fucking 4 hours. So get to work. Get going. So yeah, that was just one stop.
And how long was it in between that stop and the next stop?
2 days.
2 days? Can you walk us through that one? Was that the child pornographer?
Yeah, the next one was the child pornographer.
I feel like this one is way more insane than what happened at the last one. Will you tell people what went down when you actually went into this house?
That day I'd been at one of these trap houses, and there's like some gang dudes of different types there and whatever, and there's a couple of youngsters there that I care about girls. And I won't name drop them here because I didn't ask them permission, but it's funny because I told the people in the room, like, listen, man, I got to go take care of some shit. Here's what it is. If any of you guys want to go with, man, like, you're welcome to ride along and check this out. And the funniest part is all the slung down fucking badass dudes in the room that are so focused on getting high or doing whatever the fuck they're doing, stealing shit from people that don't deserve it. Oh, no, fuck that, bro, fuck that. We're not going to go. Well, the 2 girls who had been abused when they were young, so badass, we want to go. And I was like, all right, cool. Well, we're going to go in like 45 minutes. So get ready. And the 2 of them showed up and showed out with like little fingerless gloves and little cute boots. And it was crazy, you know what I mean? And so I brought 2 girls, childhood sexual abuse survivors with me. Went out there. It was late at night. Knocked on the dude's door forever. I was just getting ready to slip the knob and let myself in. And he comes and answers it. Grab the dude by the thing, push him all the way back, sit him down on the couch, and I usually start preaching. Interestingly, I was the son of a preacher. My natural father's dad was also a preacher and missionary and everything else. Well, apparently my mission work is right here at home. Why go anywhere else when you can fucking deliver sermons right here? And they're really effective, as I learned when I was a child, if you deliver those sermons with corporal punishment. So I start bitch slapping the fuck out of this dude, talking to him about fucking with little kids in my fucking state, et cetera, et cetera. And he appeared to be very, very receptive because I sort of opened his consciousness with a couple of fucking hard ass slaps to the fucking dome. I was also holding a hammer in one hand. Now, contrary to the people that beat me when I was a little kid, I didn't even hit him with the implement, although it would have been super appropriate in that moment had I chosen to do that, but I didn't. So think about that. I was literally one hand, open hand, and backhand bitch slapping the shit out of this child pornographer, who are some of the worst, just so you guys know. They organize, solicit, distribute. They are basically the leaders of the various local networks, child pornographers. And imagine going to buy yourself something to eat, and you know what paid for what the fuck you're putting in your mouth was a little kid getting. That type of shit blows my mind. How could it ever bother anyone that I went and took this dude's shit and gave it to moms who were actually feeding their kids? That's how sick this planet is. Anyway, I told the girls, listen, whatever you want, take it. Do what you do. So, you know, one of them told me afterwards she was rifling in his master bedroom and he had like flannel shirts and jackets and she spread them apart. And on the back wall was like a semi-set-in area that had pictures of children in naked and being molested and everything else on the wall. So it takes somebody with a really well-aligned internal compass who's been beaten into believing that he's worth nothing to show up and manifest a demon that's way fucking bigger than anything they've ever seen. So I give him a sermon, slap the piss out of him. I make him go get on his knees in the corner. He's convinced that I'm about to fucking kill him with the hammer. But I weirdly in that moment, and also I want to be very clear, killing them was never even a thought in my mind. What I wanted to try was fear as a deterrent. I put him on his knees in the corner. Every time he tries to turn his head, I tell him, put your fucking face in the corner. And I slap the fuck out of that little maggot. And meanwhile, the girls are getting the shit that they want. And I happen to see a title to his truck sitting over there. And I was like, oh, perfect. Because I know this mom who has a vehicle that isn't running. And you're about to donate that car to her, aren't you? And he's like, well, that's my truck. I told him, shut the fuck up, bitch. You have a fucking bus pass, don't you? Why don't you do that shit? So we took his mountain bikes. We took his vehicle. And again, same thing, loaded up all of his shit in his truck. I told him, don't get off your fucking knees until you count to 100 and do what you do. So we got in the truck, backed it out, drove it away, pulled it off at a place, waited till I heard all the cop sirens, ew, and then go the other way. And then I drove the truck down again to another shitty little trailer park that I know of. And it was the coolest thing ever because this mom's mom knew me. And I knocked on the door and I told her, hey, I've got a gift for your daughter. And she's like, oh, she's back there napping. And I walked in the room and her son is sleeping on the floor. On the floor. In a trailer. I told her, hey, wake up. I got a present for you. Here's the car. And those are the moments that make it worth it. Because these people should not be sucking our air. These people should not be driving around in cars and vehicles and having stuff and things when there are good people suffering. And the reason why these people are suffering, having children sleeping on the floor, is because this fucking species that feasts on kids broke them before they could even formulate a thought. And then they grew up to be drug addicts or failures and they cannot even support themselves. They did that.
And I think that it's a pretty safe bet that that creature earned at least most of that car by the things that he was doing to kids and then selling them to other creatures. So did the mom get to keep the car? Did the cops catch her with it? Did she get in any trouble?
We're pretty hella smart out here in the gutter trenches. You know what I mean? Those of us little people, you know what I'm saying? So I definitely told her, why don't you take it out to the homie? He's got some other cars. He'll probably swap you out, get something with a clean title that you can drive safely. And absolutely that took place. So yeah, out here in the trenches, you know what I mean? We survive.
Yeah, I just wanted everybody who might not have the same life experience as us to know exactly how easy it is to figure something out like that, like the old car swap. So how long was it in between that one and when you went into the next home?
2 days.
So these were 2-day intervals.
Yeah, I was feeling inspired.
You had work ethic with trying to clean up your community, homeboy. That's a good thing. Do you want to walk us through this third home?
One of the OGs had told me, hey man, this guy needs to be torn down. I thoroughly vetted him online. He had been convicted of molesting his 10-year-old granddaughter. I went and checked it out. They told me that there was a youth music group that he had been facilitating for whatever church he was involved in, which is odd. Why is this dude who's been convicted of finger banging a 10-month-old baby, why is he having kids in his home?
Churches.
Allow that shit. Oh yeah, that's right. Hey, are you done with that, baby? Look, we got another few for you.
That's why they have SAM insurance. Sexual abuse and molestation insurance.
That's a real thing.
Their asses.
I didn't even know about. That's fucking insane. Are you kidding me? Check this out. I am here to ask you if you'd like me to be your SAM insurance because I'll be happy to show up at no cost and handle that shit for you. This was William Demarest. Had a really nice, expensive home over there on the lake by the airport. And I had one of the young ladies that had gone with me from one of the prior engagements who was with me, and she really wanted to go really, really bad. And so I brought her with, and I pulled up outside, and I always back my car in, and I backed the car in. I also had my dog, Amanos. Love you, buddy. Miss you. And he gets really excited when we're getting to go in. And somehow I just sensed in my spirit that this one might get a little bit rowdy. So I told her, she really wanted to go in. I told her, look, just stay in the car. And once I get done inside, then maybe if everything's all cool, you can come inside or whatever. But for now, just stay in the car. I proceed up to the front door, pound on the front door. He doesn't answer. I pound on the left-hand side front bedroom windows. Nobody answers. I go around the corner and I see his master bedroom light is on. And I start pounding on that master bedroom light door. And in that moment, I hear like the sound of a screen door shutting. And when the screen door shuts, within a couple of seconds, I see a girl riding away on her bicycle. And in the summertime, at that time of night, you shouldn't be visiting any other man's house that's not your dad or your brother or your uncle. And so I knew again I was on point and I was there at the right time, just like every other time. And it really fucking pissed me off that this bitch-made fucking maggot didn't have the ballsack to come answer his front door. So I started pounding on his bedroom window again, and I told him, answer your front door, man, I'm here to see you. And he wouldn't come out. So my dog, Amanos, is circling the house, and he stays quiet until I give him the command. And I go back to the car because I remembered I got tools in the back of my car. So I got the hammer. I walked up to the door, and it has 2 doors, and it has 2 side lights. And so I smashed out the side light, climbed in, and I walked in the living room, and the first thing I see is a whole range of instruments in a circle in his living room where he's been having youth music ministry meetings in his home. And someone else had told me that that was taking place, and again, that was further validation that that was what was happening. And then I walked down the hallway towards where the bedrooms were, and I see one of the doors open. And a guy comes out first, and it looks like his girlfriend or his wife. And I had seen his headshot because I had looked him up on the registry, and I knew that that wasn't him. And I told him, get in the room. This doesn't have anything to do with you. And they backed up and shut the door. And as I come around the corner, I can see the master bedroom door like being forcefully shut. So I booted in, and I walk into the room. And funny thing is, when you're out there hunting and you're vetting these people, I mean, take a minute to look at the height, weight. It's probably worthy. Especially if you're not a natural born fucking fighter like myself. Like, I mean, goddamn, at least to prepare yourself. And mind you, I had already put the hammer back in a small backpack, which I had over my shoulder. So I walk in there and I tell Demarest, like I do all of them, get on the fucking ground, get on your knees. And he didn't want to get down on his knees. And I tell him 2 or 3 times, and he's asking me what I'm doing there. And I tell him, you can consider me an avenging angel for the children you're molesting. And at that point, he takes kind of 2 or 3 long lumbering punches, and I let him hit me in the face because usually if I'm going to start a fire, it needs a couple of rocks to crack against each other. So I let him make the spark. He hit me in the face 2 or 3 times, and right in that moment I said, oh, really? That's what we're doing? And I remembered the hammer because I had set the backpack on the floor in between us. So I fucking reached down and I pulled the hammer out. First thing I did was crack him in his fucking collarbone, and instantly he wilted like a little bitch all the way down onto the floor. And then the crazy part is that this person, if you put the picture of this person next to the picture of the person, the demon that adopted my brother and I when we were young, they look extremely similar. And as soon as he got wilted all the way down to the floor with a shattered collarbone, I realized in that moment, I'm not going to lose this fight. You cannot beat me in this fight. And I proceeded to dome him in his head about 3 fucking times. And when I left this dude, he was hella slumped in the corner, head down, covered in blood. And then I turned around and I walked out of the house, climbed back out the side light. Amanos, come! I waited for him to get to the car because that's my dude. And I got in the vehicle, put the hammer in the console in between us, and I drove away. And I'm telling you right now, if I gave a fuck about myself more than I gave a fuck about the cause, I could have left 2 minutes early, 1 minute early, 30 seconds early, but I wanted to handle it properly. And his home is on a dead end street. And right as I was getting to just about 2 more seconds, I could have turned right and bounced him and gone. the cops come racing in and they see my car because I had just flipped the headlights on, and they must have got a description from the dudes, the guy and his wife that were looking out the window, and box me in. I pull over. I get out. I can't remember specifically the line of questioning, you know, but I will tell you this, you know, while they arrested me and did their job and collected the evidence and everything else, these guys were like patting me on the back, shaking my hand, asking me, did you get him good? Did you get that motherfucker good? Amanos, I'm sorry, was absolutely losing his shit because he saw me out there cuffed with cops around, and he literally, it was amazing. I've never seen him do this before. He started dismantling the inside of my vehicle, headliner, plastic, doorknobs, everything, just destroyed the inside of the car trying to get out. And incidentally, it was really cool. There was a canine unit there, the cop that was a dog handler, and he asked me if I had somebody I could call to come and pick up my dog. And I told him, I don't know, let me use your phone. So he held the phone up, and I called the one girl that who had also gone with me, co-pilot, on some of these missions. And she's like, absolutely not. I have cats. You cannot have that dog here. Absolutely. I live in a condo. So we got off the phone, and it was really, really cool. Much respect to that canine officer, man, because he sat there and thought about it a minute, and he told me, you know what? I think I've got an extra long white lead in the trunk of my car, a matter of fact, and I can probably take him back to my house, and maybe he can stay there. And he did, man. He came in, he was able to soothe Amanos somehow, put him on a leash, and as far as I know, took him to his house. Better have taken good care of my boy, because if not, I'm fucking pissed. Standing outside the car that night, it was surreal, because as I watched the ambulance go racing by me towards the maggot's house, it was sort of settling on me in that moment. I was like, oh shit, I probably killed him. I just lost the whole rest of my life. It's gone. And honestly, as the weight of that settled on me, because I'm not like a stone cold killer by nature by any means, it didn't take too long, and I was like, worth it, worth it. I would give my life for one kid, worth it, and I have. And I would do it again, because it's so important that people have people like that out there on this planet, because no one did it for me. Worth it.